So you're saying that didn't get you with their seawater?
No, unfortunately not. I do want to call out. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm the dry skin chemist Gloria.
I'm the oily skin chemist Victoria.
Today we're reviewing this new-ish category of products that's been trending everywhere. We're talking toner pads.
We got this request and realized it's a lot more popular than I think Gloria and I ever expected. So we decided to take, this is especially popular in the K-beauty realm. So we decided to take some of the most popular toner pads out there, 5 to be exact, and Gloria and I have tried them all, and we're going to touch base on our experience. And the 5 that we tested are, these literally feel like toddler building blocks. They're just like so clunky.
Giant. I was shocked. So we got the Anua Heartleaf 77 clear pad. We have the Medicube Zero Pore pad, and the Pore claim is part of why we decided to lump it with the Pore episode.
Yes.
And then we have the Cellamax, also Heartleaf BHA peeling pad. We have the Numbuzin, please someone tell us how to pronounce our brand name correctly, Numbuzin Vitamin Niacinamide Concentrated Pad. And last but not least, maybe least, Medicube Collagen Ampule Pad. And I should mention, before we dive into our thoughts on all of this, I tried this semi-blind. So I left all the packaging in Victoria's place, and I literally grabbed the wad out from the container and put it in little Ziploc bags and took it to go. And I only labeled the bags with the brand name. I didn't even look at the claims. I didn't even, honestly, before I tried it, I didn't even look at the name closely enough. So I didn't have any preconceived notions in terms of like the Heartleaf ones are supposed to be for healing or like for soothing purposes. I didn't look at the peel claims and anything else. I just tested the product as is in a little Ziploc baggie, and those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about, our experiences for different skin types, our chemist notes, and essentially which ones are our favorite and maybe least favorite. But before we even do that, I have to talk about purchasing these pads. First thing is packaging. Expect tweezers in all of them because I think they just didn't want you to have to constantly pinch and pull.
Crappy tweezers, but tweezers.
Yeah, if you could take a Sunday potluck salad tong and then like minimized it, like that's essentially what it was. I do want to mention that these opinions are all our own. We purchased these for us to trial ourselves, and we actually decided this time to purchase via Amazon. A lot of times we purchase via Stylevana or even Yes Style, and I have to say, eye-opening experience because the Cellamax toner pad came like this.
Oh no.
Which makes me feel like, what happened? What did they do? Did they run it over a car? I mean, it looks like it has tire marks on them, like this thing.
Oh
yeah,
no.
So I have to say purchasing via Amazon has not been my most favorite experience. And I also have to throw Numbuzin on the bus because it's supposed to be opened this way and you can see it's leaking everywhere, but it actually just comes apart. So I would say that's not my favorite. And then finally, I'm going to put an image up on the screen for the Anua Heartleaf toner pads. They actually mentioned that it went through a packaging change. So if you see, it shows the original and the renewed. So I'm like, okay, great. Got it. And then I get the toner pad and I'm like, this is not the renewed version. So, I mean, it's not going to change our opinion because apparently it's supposed to be the same exact formula, but just like something that's just like a little off about Amazon purchases that I really wanted to put out there for everybody.
Yeah. Quirks of Amazon shopping. So first up, we should talk about the aesthetics and the general texture and use experience of these formulas.
I have notes.
Yes, so I'll go first. And I want to say that when we decided to do this topic, one of my top concerns was that I'm not going to have an opinion on most of these. I am not a toner lover. I don't have oily skin, so I'm not quite the target demographic for things like the Medicube Zero Pore Pad. So all of this, I was kind of like, unexcited. But I actually formed opinions very quickly. And the thing that's divided all these pads is eye irritation. Because these come in pre-soaked pads, my natural tendency is use it more like the cleansing type of toners or like the micellar water type of concept is I will run over my face and I will do like a closer one over around my eyes to if there's any residuals. Bad idea. Some of them burn. They all actually a lot of them hurt my eyes so badly. And it's not like I have mild discomfort. No, it's like I feel like I dribbled holy water in my cursed eyes or something. It's pretty bad. And I think I have my eyes are not super sensitive. Like I've never felt the need to buy products based on eye irritation level, but these are bad.
All right, so which of the few did not work for your eyes?
So, so Selling Max is the one that didn't hurt my eyes at all, which looking at their name, I actually find to be a little surprising because it's positioned as a peeling pad. Anua is a close second. It's the pad itself, the Neuro pad itself, it's a little juicier. So the formula on the pad didn't irritate my eyes, but it had more of a dribble effect compared to the Selling Max, which sometimes can be a little annoying, but it's not irritation. Medicube burns, numbuzzing, holy burning, Medicube, ouch. Yeah, all three of these hurt a lot, and I think numbuzzing was numbuzzing my eyes. It was by far the worst for me.
Got it. Yeah. Weirdly enough, none of these burned my eyes, so that's why.
Interesting.
Gloria has always been, I feel like the eye area has always been a lot more on point on picking this out. We have people who talk about like sunscreens, irritating your eyes and stuff. Like Gloria is the one that will be able to, like, I was going to say sniff, but that's not the right word. But she'll be able to get a quick sense of that really quickly. Yeah, so weirdly enough, it didn't burn my eyes. But for me, the biggest thing was residue. And so two things, I think, is how I graded it. Quality of cotton pad, because I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but quality of cotton pad and residue. So first, what we can do is like I can actually show you the quality of and how different some of these can be. So I would probably say, and Gloria, you can chime in if you agree or not, that the Medicube, the Anua, and the Celimax are pretty similar. They're the textured, like, round pad. So I'm going to hold up dripping cloths for you guys to see. So that's the Medicube one, and the Anua one, and the Celimax one, which
interesting. This is a scintillating episode, guys.
I'm sure audio listeners are like, what? But anyways, they're all round. They all have a textured, like, bumpy side. They all, I think, hold the moisture pretty well. And it's funny that Gloria mentioned that Anua is more wet, because that's also something I noticed between Celimax and Anua. I actually ended up comparing those a lot because I found them to be quite similar. Is that like when you press on the cotton pads, they just kind of like, you just see the pool of water.
The ooze test.
Yeah, the ooze test. So that was, I would say those are similar. The Numbuzzin one, I don't know, Gloria. I think it's fine. It's a longer rectangle, larger surface area, and I will say over time these are starting to get more and more yellow. So that's the one thing I found kind of interesting. But it's a lattice, like rectangle. It's thinner. It's kind of more fabric-like. I would say this is my second favorite. I think I'm still used to kind of the more cushioned circular pads, but fine, does the job in terms of spreading the toner formula. Medicube is by far my least, and I'm gonna hold it up for you guys because this feels like the equivalent of like tissue paper, toilet paper. Like, this feels so thin, and I think immediately had me being like, I don't really care about this product.
And because it's so thin, when you take it out of the container, you are more prone to taking out like 8 pads at a time that you have to then slowly separate it out. And it's just so not a good use experience. Right. My personal opinion is that I prefer not just the round pads, not because they're round, but I like the ones with the B side with that texture backing where there's clearly a side to use it. I find those, especially once they're, transfer into my trusty little Ziploc bag, they tend to be less grody. Like once they're out of, if you're traveling with these, the boxes are gigantic. They're now travel friendly. When you take a wad out and put it into a Ziploc bag, I find the Numbuzzin pad and the Medicube pad, they tend to like really get crunched up into like really pressed together, and it's hard to separate them out. And it's just like it's not just inconvenience, it just feels a little gross. Like you have to dig in there to like really separate them and peel out pads. So that. Oh, and you mentioned residue. Which one had the least residue and which one was the most offensive in terms of residue?
Okay, so Most offensive was the Numbuzin one. And I gotta be honest, I think all of them actually leave a residue. But some are like not as offensive. The Numbuzin one, it just lasts longer on my skin. And one of the things that was very strange was when the residue, it's like, it actually ends up being kind of sticky on my skin. And I can start feeling my eyes blinking because my lids are like kind of like adhering
Stuck together
a lot more or better than usual. So I'm gonna put this on. I'll put the numbers in on one side, and then I'll put the which one was least offensive? I think the Cellamax was the least offensive for me. What about you, Gloria?
I find usually because we have very different skin types, Victoria's oily prone. She's a lot more sensitive to the feel of residue and stickiness. Usually I have a slightly different opinion than her with regards to texture. But I will say this is one of those products that weirdly I'm very aligned on. Given that it's positioned as a toner, I want it to be very weightless. While I have more tolerance for it, the numb buzzing stick, on my dry skin, it's not as sticky as Victoria's skin, but it still like changes the rest of my routine. Like it makes my whole routine feel heavier and stickier. And so for me, that's the bar for toners is I don't mind if it feels a little bit more nourishing, but if you make my other creams feel sticky, that's weird. I don't like that. So yes, agree that Numbuzin was the standout no for me in terms of texture. I will say on my dry skin, everything else feels a little bit same thing but different. It's like other than the eye irritation, the finish is not super different. Cellamax is the markedly lighter one. Anua is really light too, like Victoria mentioned. It is very similar to Cellamax, but because of how it's deposited, how the pad soaks up a little bit more, that tends to affect the freshness just a little bit more as well.
Yeah, totally agree. I think aside from that, in terms of like skin type notes, Gloria kind of already went into a little bit of it. Yeah, I at least for oily skin, it's just like the stickiness. I found that carry through with other, like following with a moisturizer. It's always fascinating because these are all like, they're supposed to be light, watery formulas, but the impact on skin and impression is actually a lot more. Like I didn't think I'd have any feels about texture, but I actually do. And I kind of ended up feeling like, I think I'm okay with regular toners because I feel like regular toners actually have to be a lot more mindful about texture.
Like even the milky toners that we tried in last year's toner episode were not as sticky as some of these ones we're mentioning.
Yes. And I know some of these have AHAs and whatnot, and I wonder if that's like, that kind of gets a pass sometimes in that aspect, but I'm like kind of shocked by how much residue that, at least for me, I ended up experiencing. So those are really all my notes in terms of skin type. What about you, Gloria?
I think that's it for me as well. So let's move on to, take a closer look at the claims and how we would dissect the ingredient list.
All right. So in terms of chemist claims, I did want to give Anua a shout out because they actually did some sort of clinical, and it's around actual pores and sebum. I'm just going to share the data, put it up on the screen, where they actually mentioned that after 1 week of use, they saw a 27% pore volume decrease after 1 week. And then in terms of sebum, this is after 2 weeks, they saw a 45% decrease in sebum reduction. There's not a lot of data that's shared on, the size of the test or the general depth of the test, but there is some data there, and in a world of pads that have no data, I would say that's definitely worth mentioning.
That's actually great. Honestly, when Victoria looked, I barely looked because I was assuming there's nothing. So you know what? Huge shout out for Nua for doing that. So let's take a closer look at these ingredient lists. We're gonna, because there are 5 products, we're gonna go through it pretty quickly. We'll put the full aisle on the screen, but we'll just mention our top notes. First up, the Anua Heartleaf 77 Clear Pad. Like their line, they use 77% of the Heartleaf extract. You can check out our episode on that for more detail on Heartleaf. Then water, gluconolactone is the main thing that we highlighted. At that third position, it should still be at a high enough level. This is a PHA to kind of give it a little bit of a light hydrating / lightly exfoliating property.
Say very gentle, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not comparable to, say, a 7% glycolic acid toner. This will be lighter than that. And at the very end of it, you have your typical centella blend. You have centella, asiatica, extract, metacalcicite, asiatic acid, so on and so forth, but that's all the way at the end. So we wouldn't take the soothing properties from those super seriously, the heart leaf will be doing the heavy lifting here.
Yeah. In terms of Metacube, some of the top call outs we want to mention is it's water, methylpropane tromethamine, which is a pH buffer. Then you have lactic acid and denatured alcohol, which I found kind of surprising, but this is actually quite common in terms of astringents or exfoliating astringents. They also include, I'm just going to read a couple more, 1,2-hexanediol, panthenol, glycer 26, and salicylic acid. So the two main exfoliators here are going to be lactic acid and salicylic acid. I would also categorize this as probably going to be a gentle exfoliator, slightly stronger than the Anua. And the other thing that I really want to note is that they actually include several citrus essential oils, including limonene. So this is fragranced. And well, for us, like fragrance, I'm not bothered by fragrance. It's definitely something, just want to keep that in mind for people out there who are trying to be mindful of that.
Next up, we have Celemax Heartleaf BHA Peeling Pad. This is by far the shortest ingredient list, actually. We have water, dipropylene glycol, butylene glycol, 1,2-hexanediol, betaine salicylate, which again is that BHA derivative that some Korean brands favor. Betaine, polyglycerol, da-da-da-da. And interestingly, they have I feel like an active ingredient of yesterday decade, seawater is
I've never
floating somewhere in there.
An IL label just flat out seawater. It just feels so raw.
You know, speaking of seawater, sorry, this is a super quick aside. There was a little bit of time when I was maybe in college that I think that's when they were trying to make seawater into an active ingredient. I have really dry skin. And I was experimenting with expensive formulas. And I stopped by the Shoe or more counter and they were trying to sell me the essence of seawater. And they're like, seawater, rich in minerals. It's so good for you. The electrolytes will energize your cells and make you more plump. And I didn't know anything about skin science at the time. I was like, but then why is my skin dry when I go to the ocean? And they're like, well, this is very little seawater. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, that's just a random side story. It's just, we haven't seen that in some time.
So you're saying that La Mer didn't get you with their seawater?
No, unfortunately not. I do want to call out that, sorry about that side story. Jumping back into the Celemax peeling pad, I do want to call out that they also have heart leaf extract. It's called out by the name, but it comes after the seawater and after some green tea water. So if you're curious about heart leaf in general, or you've used heart leaf products to some degree of success, the newer one will have a much higher level of this than the Celemax.
Yeah, and we should also mention that this has tea tree oil. So it's another thing. It's scented. It's fragrance. So just want to also call that out there with Celemax. All right, we should move on to Numbazin, the vitamin C.
Oh, clearly our favorite.
Nice. It's literally dripping from the sides. It's so annoying. It's like I've got stuff on my fingers. Okay, but anyways.
Guys, get a new box, please.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, water, niacinamide. So another product. I don't know how many of these product reviews are we going to be calling niacinamide out in the second or third position. So
the quick takeaway here, the quick takeaway here is if you follow our other episodes and you're trying to build your K-beauty inspired routine, do not start with this, followed by this VT and then followed by the VT Rido shots, and then PDR, and you are dunking your face in niacinamide at this point.
Exactly. On. There's a lot of glycols that follow: dipropylene glycol, glycerin propane diol, butylene glycol. Just lots of humectants. If you travel further down the ingredient list, and we're gonna say this is probably gonna be at much lower concentrations. You've got things like sodium hyaluronate, ascorbic acid, even tranexamic acid, which we like. They've got asorboglucoside, ubiquinone, kind of this like bouquet of random actives out there, which
I do spy gluconolactone somewhere in the top third, but again, compared to
after ethyl hexaglycerin,
but compared to say the newer one, that one is probably at a lower dose of gluconolactone. Even I will say they use a lot of great inkies, right? Like ascorbic acid, tranexamic acid, ubiquinone. Those are all ingredients we talk about with data. But in this format, at that concentration, it's nothing to write home about. And that combo with our great love of its texture, I just find this the concept of this one to be like,
it's a bit lost, we would say. Bit lost. All right. And let's wrap this up with MetaHeal Collagen Ampule-Pad.
Oh, right. This is a very typical water-based formula. So you start out with water, glycerin 26, goes on to the hydrating betaine. There are some other stabilizers. In terms of the actives, they have like a dipotassium glycyrrhizate, which is one of the components that is associated with licorice root extract. It's soothing. And the call out is they have an ingredient called collagen extract at 1000 ppm. So collagen extract at 1000 ppm. How do we feel about that, Victoria?
Yeah, so we would say, first of all, collagen extract by itself is not, it's not an active that we're going to expect to do more than hydration,
Right.
strictly because the molecule is going to be very big. So unless there's more data that talks about their extract, that's going to be very, we're not going to see it more than just hydrator. But in terms of actual concentration, that is quite low. I believe that is 0.1% collagen.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really only going to get 0.1% collagen. And at that amount, I always feel like with the ppm label, it's always like, that's so nice of them to share. Okay. Like that's nice.
I mean, I will say though, I'm not super offended by it. I
Right.
don't think I will ever expect toner pads to be strong actives delivery vehicles. But I will say on the same token, what it's for feels a little lost for me. We just covered 4 other ones that have light exfoliants baked in this. This one has no exfoliants at all. So it does make the positioning feel a little bit weird because you're not using it for collagen reasons. You're not using it for exfoliation. So what is this for is a very lost on the meta heel, we would say. We should wrap up their Inky list by pointing out that they also have a hodgepodge of essential oils, so it does have a fragrance. I've kind of actually liked the fragrance. I'm not offended by it. They also have...
Yeah, it's lighter than the Metacube one, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of pleasant. They also have a lot of actives at the very end of the list. They have lactobacillus ferment. They have ceramide MP. They have a blend of peptides all the way at the end, which may or may not contribute to stuff because it's really low. And while peptides aren't high use level ingredients, we are not convinced that it's at an effective level. At least we haven't seen anything to indicate that.
Yeah, so clearly this is positioned more in the, they're trying to aim for the anti-aging realm. However, I agree with you. I don't know if toner pads is where I'm going to like correct in that sense. I always feel like toner pads, the essence of wiping is very significant. So it should feel like you're getting the mode of action is either an even deeper cleanse or like, we're so used to exfoliation, like the peel pads, things like I'm expecting that. I'm not expecting anti-aging correction that way. So totally agree.
Well, after running through the ingredient list and our personal experience, which one would you pick, Victoria?
Okay. So I did some cost analysis and I'm just going to break down some of the costs for everybody. So Anua comes in at $25 for 70 pads, which is 36 cents a pad. Medicube, $31 for 70 pads. That's 44 cents a pad. I want you to know this is the most expensive of the bunch. Celimax Heartleaf BHA. They only provide 60 pads, but it's at $17.50, so it's going to be 29 cents a pad. Numbuzin is $26 for 70 pads at 37, so it's pretty comparable to the Anua. And then MetaHeal comes in at $23 for 100 pads, which actually makes sense because those pads are very thin, are at 23 cents a pad. So they're the cheapest of the bunch. In terms of which one I would choose, I think I'm going to have to go with the Anua Heartleaf. It could be because the smell of tea tree oil is very nostalgic for me or something, but I found the texture to be minimally just least offensive. I found the experience fine. I like the toner pads. I appreciate the data. And yeah, I just think overall, I think I'd probably choose that out of the 5. What about you, Gloria?
I think I will lean towards the Celimax, and for similar reasons, I think the use experience is the most pleasant. It doesn't sting my eyes. It's a very light texture, and the cotton pad is just nice enough that it doesn't feel gross. So all in all, but I will say it's a close call with Anua. I can see Anua being useful in certain scenarios as well. My least favorite is hand down the Numbuzin. I will say Numbuzin is like a undisputed #1 least favorite for how much it burned my eyes and how unpleasant the texture was. I will say Mediheal was a close second, not because I do find that because it's the cheapest, I find them to be just a little bit less offensive. Because while it did also burn my eyes, I also find that the texture of the pad was distracting enough for me that I just think the whole it really makes me feel like, well, why did you bother putting it in on this pad?
Yeah, we should mention Mediheal has other toner pads, so this just happens to be the major one and most popular one, I believe, that we tried. So who knows, maybe the other ones are worth a look there just for cost if you consider cheapest. But yeah, I think that wraps up toner pads for me, Gloria. I don't think I'm gonna be incorporating toner pads long term into my routine yet. Who knows, maybe we'll stumble upon a nicer luxurious cotton round of toner fluid to put on my face next time. I don't know.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm not a big toner user.
Yeah, same.
Neither of us are, so we should mention that.
Yeah.
So let us know if you are a big fan of toners and what do you think of toner pads, and if our assessment align with your own experience. Please do let us know.
Yeah, don't buy it on Amazon. Buy it elsewhere. Buy the stuff elsewhere, especially Celemax. Don't buy that on Amazon. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. That's our 5 toner pads review. We hope it was helpful for you in your shopping journey. Please let us know, and also let us know what products you'd like us to test next. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.